Mark Latham. Our politicians, look, I know they have conditioned Australians into accepting lockdowns and never mind the cost. Have they done enough to give Tim Flannery, people like him, this opportunity to say, hey, yes, now let's keep going with this wartime stuff and fight global warming?
Well, Andrew, we seem to be on a war footing for everything. COVID, China, climate change. We don't know which way to look in terms of who we're fighting. But the serious point is that the old adage that if you give politicians power, they want more power. And there's no doubt that the state premiers in particular, in being able to control our movements, our activities right down to what we do when we're shopping, this is a power drug on which they've consumed plenty of it. And they obviously want more. There's plenty of evidence that state governments are not going to easily release the stranglehold they've had on our lives through the COVID period. So, yeah, it is a worry.
So
it would
true.
encourage someone like Flannery to think that a war footing, more authoritarian government, more nanny statism, telling everyone how to live their life, what sort of car you can drive, what sort of electricity you can consume, what you're supposed to be doing for net zero 2050, all this sort of thing, just encourages the left and Flannery, of course, to want even more authority. But wouldn't you think with Flannery, because he's in this latest quarterly essay, wouldn't you think that having seen the water flowing over the top of Warragamba Dam and flooding much of Western Sydney earlier this year, he would never again show his face in public life in this country? But the guy's got no shame. You know, he's got more front than Mark Foy. He's out there forgetting all the wrong forecasts that he put around and now saying we need a war footing and even more control in our lives, our consumption patterns in particular, and what sort of jobs you can work in for the climate change cause.
Mate, I have to counsel you not to be so naive and trusting. I mean, in reason, don't forget, you're talking about a country that for years accepted Bruce Pascoe really was Aboriginal, despite being even whiter than you. I mean, really, there you go. What can you say? He says, yeah, I thought there was one little thing that I took comfort from. He's saying, look, we actually need this war footing, you know, semi-dictatorial powers, of course, to fight global warming because, you know, then we won't be counting the cost, which exposes a lie, because there's Labor been for years telling us, well, net zero, that's not really going to cost us. Tim Flannery says we will need wartime effort because it will.
Huge from going net zero 2050 and decarbonising the economy. Andrew, we might have from time to time criticisms of the Ardern government in New Zealand, but you'd have to give them the credit. They're the only government I can find around the world that's actually modelled the economic impact of net zero 2050. And for them, they're throwing away 17% of their GDP over the next 3 decades. Well, we're a much more energy-intense economy. You'd have to think it's 25, 30% lost GDP and household income if we go down that path. And what's it all for?
I'm sorry, you are making great points. Unfortunately, we can hear you, but the picture's frozen. So might try to get you back later on, if you don't mind. I'm sorry about that. Apologies.
Okay, thanks.